You're listening to
and such a short amount of time to do it in. We were really
a Mamma Mia podcast.
All grown up now, I think I'm ready to move on now.
Hello and welcome to The Undone, a Mamma Mia podcast for people in their 20s who are navigating the lockdown world without a GPS, because we don't need one right now. I'm Emily. I am still in my closet in my childhood bedroom. I've tried to change it up a bit, but I realised that I changed up. So Lucy and I can actually see each other, and I've changed up the part that Lucy can't see in front of me.
You were trying to show off and be like, look, I've done some renos.
Yeah, because you have a different background every time.
That's because, look, right now I'm still under the washing line. There is one common denominator, which is my washing line. But I'm sitting on my bed this time because the floor, it was hurting. Like, I was just not having a good time. I'd get up after the record and I'm like an old grandma. So today I'm cozy in bed under the washing line.
Your washing line is like the structure of your... and then it's just like things in the washing line changes every time.
Yeah. Today on the show, we're going to talk about the awkward stage. And look, if you did have one, you'll probably have a visceral reaction to that segment. But if you didn't have one, what the hell? I'm very jealous. We'll go through all of that. And then we're going to talk about a listener dilemma about a pretty manky date situation. But first, the FYI.
Wait, I have to pay for these?
Oh, I don't think that goes in there.
We should probably have already
We
know
should
this.
probably know this.
So I know a few weeks ago we talked about being safe on first dates, especially in the online dating space. I think it's only been about like in the last 5 years where online dating has really made a move in the dating kind of atmosphere where people are preferring to have that like kind of anonymous vibe before you meet up with someone. Mm-hmm. I know that a lot of people who I know now are in relationships with people who they've met off Tinder or Bumble or Hinge. It seems to be really common. And I think because so many people are relying on dating apps so much to find love or to find dating or to find hookups, that apps have started to take on the responsibility to keep their users safe, which they should. And because I know I mention this all the time, but I've been on apps for a few years now and I've seen some changes for the better. And there was one change in particular that I really wanted to talk about today. It's from Tinder and it's called Are You Sure? So Tinder actually have quite a few AI implementations within their app that help people be safe. They introduced a feature called Does This Bother You quite some time ago, where if they felt like someone sent you a bit of a questionable message on Tinder, they'll give you a message saying, does this bother you? And then you can report them right then and there. So they've introduced this other kind of feature called Are You Sure? So the person who they feel like is about to send the message that might seem problematic, they give them a little notification saying, are you sure you want to send this? And they give them the opportunity to reword their message or to send that original message. And there's just been a lot of conversation around that I've seen where people aren't really sure that this is going to help people from getting abused on apps. Luce, how do you feel about this?
Well, Emily, you shared kind of the announcement post in our messages where we prepped for the show and you were like, let's talk about this today. So I looked at the post and a lot of the comments were, this is great. You know, unfortunately, a lot of the time there are some real dickheads on dating apps and I've received shit messages. I'm sure, Em, you've spoken about as well. There's been all kinds of shit behavior. But what I didn't like about it is on dating apps, it's already hard enough to decipher the true tone of messaging. So often that leads to you going on a date, or in my case anyway, going on a date being like, oh, this guy is not it. Like I've told this story before on the podcast about a guy who made like a racist, sexist, homophobic joke all in the space of 30 minutes of me arriving on a date with him, even though I was talking to them for a couple of weeks online. It's already enough to see the red flags sometimes because it's online, you're not in person. So if someone's a dick, I want to know. I don't want to waste my time. I want to know straight up. Even if it's not necessarily abusive, I want to know if they're aggressive or threatening. And I don't know, I think it was really well intended to stop people receiving abuse online. Obviously, it's not okay. But I think that it might give people that are going to send those messages a second chance to be like, not show their true colours.
Yeah, which is exactly what we talked about in our prep meeting. It was a part of a discussion where I hadn't seen online yet, where it's been very two-sided, where some people like think this feature is great in stopping abuse. Some people say it's not going to stop abuse. But what about the people who genuinely want, like you said, want to see people's true colors. They want to get that initial like abusive message so they know, okay, I can decide for myself that I don't want to talk to this person. This feature really protects the perpetrator of saying, hey, as an app, I'm going to give you a second chance to reword your message. But shouldn't that be on the onus of the person receiving the message?
Yeah, it should. And I did see some comments applauding it, provided that Tinder actually did something with that information. So, like, maybe this isn't what they've done, by the way. This is obviously all kind of just hypothetical, but I think it could be really helpful if, you know, as part of the terms and conditions that people don't ever read but agree to anyway when you join an app, they could say that if you get one of those messages that says this message has been flagged as abusive, are you sure? Your messages then go to a review process. Even if you didn't send it, what you were going to send goes through a review process, and if found in fact to be abusive, then it like to be handed over to whoever needs to deal with that, the authorities, police, whatever. I think that that kind of thing could be really helpful, but from what I'm aware of, it just seems to be kind of like are you sure that you want to be perceived in that way, not kind of reporting dangerous behavior.
Yeah, I really genuinely hope that this feature does kind of help spread the abusive messages that are so commonly seen on dating apps, and it's not just like a PR stunt on behalf of Tinder.
The other day, I got a message from an old friend. I saw the name and I was like, not someone I talk to very often. And then the notification was coming through. It was on Instagram. And it was like, this person has sent you a photo. This person has sent you a photo. This person has sent you a photo, like 5 times. And I immediately knew what these were going to be. Like, I knew that it was going to be photos of me in my awkward stage, because this friend is a friend that I had in that awkward stage. And like, we haven't seen each other since. So it's kind of like, the photos, she's doing a little Facebook, you know, peep around memory lane, and she's found some images that she was like, how cute are these? Let's share. And I was right. There they were. She was just being like, lol, good memories. And I was like, I'm going to throw up. Like, this is so uncomfortable, because it just feels like I'm looking at someone who is no longer me. And I remember how insecure I was as a teenager, but like now I've come out of that and I feel comfortable now. But I just feel like I had to live that awkward phase to be a little rough around the edges to get to this place. So, did you have an awkward phase, and when was it / what did it look like? What did you look like?
My awkward phase was between the ages of 10 and 15.
Yeah.
And I looked like a 30-year-old Indian man. Like, it was just so much hair all over my face, all over my body. I had more hair than any boy I'd ever seen in my life. I had so many pimples. My tits were like a size D from when I was 10 years old, and they just stopped growing from then. I was a giant. I like grew till this height when I was 11, and then I just stopped growing. It was traumatic. It was so bad. And plus, on top of that, I've only found this out when I was 16, but I have PCOS, which makes your hair grow. So I already had like so much hair from being Indian, and then I just had PCOS on top of that. So it was like a double whammy. I look like a man. The other day, I was looking at photos with my grandparents, and it was a photo of me and all my cousins. And my papa pointed to me, and he was like, "Who's that boy?" And I was like, it's me, Papa. It's me. I can't help it. But I don't know, like, firstly, what your friend did was wrong, okay? The people who can only share photos of you as a child are your cousins, because they look like you, and they went through the exact same thing as you went. Like, there's photos of me and my cousins. We're wearing like this gross lip gloss that enhanced our mustaches. It was just like, we didn't know what to do with our eyebrows. Our mums only let us like wax our eyebrows when we were 16. It was so bad. But it's like that commonality. You can't have a friend sharing photos of you when you were young if they look glamorous. No. And then they're like, who's this man-child standing next to you?
To be fair, she was just sharing them in a private DM. And also, like, it was both of us. We were probably 13. So, like, it's not like she was, you know, at her prime either. But I would say that my awkward stage was like 9 to 17. It's a big freaking range, but most awkward would have been 10 to 14. I had massive teeth, like the same teeth that I have now, but when my adult teeth came in, they were just so big for my head. And now obviously my head's grown and they're proportionate, kind of, I hope. But I also had like a short bob with a front fringe. My natural hair is leaning towards ginger in colour. I'm also very fair, freckly. Like, I just was
like Ron
uncomfortable.
Weasley.
I was just uncomfortable in my body. And I would look at these popular girls and just imagine, I was like, what would it be like to be you for a day? Because I just could not even fathom. I was awkward. And then in those early high school years, I had some just massive hair and makeup blunders. Like all through my senior schooling, I wore this like one hair extension at the bottom of my head and I would plait it. So I'd have like this one really long, skinny flat running down my back. And like coloured eyeliner done really badly. My 16th birthday was particularly bad. Like extensions, orange as hell, awful makeup in a stupidly like way too sexy outfit. Like I just didn't know what I was doing or who I was, right?
Yeah.
But now I'm comfortable. Like I know who I am. Like it doesn't mean I get things right all the time. Sometimes I'm like, what was that makeup? But whatever. I want to talk about teenagers now. TikTok.
Okay.
So I'm on TikTok. You're on TikTok. We're all on TikTok. These, I want to say women, but they're not. They're teenagers or girls that I see now who just completely skip that stage. They have access to makeup tutorials when we never did. Like it was always like, I'm going to go find something in my sister's drawer or my mum's drawer and just give it a go. We'll see how it goes. They're exposed to fashion, trends. Like I guess they have like access on their phone all the time to be watching influencers and what they're wearing and all that kind of stuff. And I just think that they're completely missing this stage where you are isolated, awkward, and have no idea how to get out of it.
It's embarrassing. I feel like I realized that younger people were skipping the awkward stage. It was like a very gradual realization for me. My sister is about 6 years younger than me, and that's when I first realized it, where, like I mentioned before, my cousins and I would share really awful photos of us to each other going, oh my God, look how gross we are. And my sister just looked perfect in every single photo. And I think this was the rise of YouTube. It was during that time where YouTube became like the thing that everyone was on. We were being introduced to makeup tutorials. My sister had a form of skin condition that was similar to vitiligo, so she got into makeup very early. And she started doing these YouTube tutorials that were gaining like 1 to 2K views per video when she was 9 years old.
Yeah.
I think she also had inspiration. Like she's probably saw me and was like, I'm definitely not going to do that. Like that's horrific. So she probably like realized she didn't want to do that. But then it's like getting even like quote unquote worse with younger people. And now I have an even younger cousin who's an IMG model. And I'm like, okay, relax. Okay. We don't need this. But there's something to say where I felt like my awkward stage really built up the rest of my life. I know like a lot of other Indian girls can relate to this, but it was probably when I was 17, 18 when I just kind of came into myself and I just probably peaked at that age. And boys were recognizing me, people were looking at me, and I engaged in some problematic behavior because I never had this form of attention before because people were like, who's that Indian boy standing there by himself? But I was getting a lot of attention, and I think the harsh difference between me being a 30-year-old Indian man to me being a 17-year-old Indian woman really made me feel like that I came into myself. And that's also, I guess, when beauty standards changed, where people started preferring thick eyebrows and big lips and darker skin. So I was like, okay, this is working well for me. And it's like these kids have caught on to this so early. Like the minute they're out of the vagina, they're like, cool, can't wait to get my eyebrows done and shave my back. And I'm like, it's working for them. But I feel like if you don't endure that kind of hardship that you do when you're younger, like you're never going to have that peaking realization and engage in problematic behaviors when you're older.
For Dating Diary this week, we have an anonymous confession. So if you didn't know, we have a form in the link in our show notes and you can send us a confession. We do not know who sends them. So this one reads, Emily, I'm going to read it to you.
Thank you.
I went on a date with a guy yesterday and he was so nice, but I got the ick so bad over his teeth. They were discoloured and I could see the grime between the bottom teeth. Vomit face emoji. I just couldn't see past it, and as soon as I got home, I just had to go and floss my own teeth straight away. I feel so shallow, but I just could not deal. How do you feel?
God. Women literally do the most, hey? Like, first date. Like, brush your teeth. I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand, like, who gave men the audacity to do these things to us. It's already so like emotionally draining to get yourself to go to a first date and to like bring yourself to talk to someone. And then you realize they don't brush their teeth and you're like, well, you just wasted my whole night. I don't think she's being shallow at all. I think she should not see him again.
To me, agreed, it's not shallow. So she's worried about it being shallow and she's saying help, but it's a clear indication of someone's oral hygiene. And hygiene is important to a lot of people, unsurprisingly. So when you're dating someone, typically, look, things might get a bit intimate, sometimes to the point of literally opening your mouth on their mouth. And to be honest, I can't think of many people who would be okay with that situation occurring. I agree, it's also a bit shit that they knew they were going on a date with you who, look, it's probably a generalization, but typically a lot of my female friends put a lot more effort into their presentation on a first date or on the first few dates than, you know, they might when they're going out for a coffee with their friends. And this guy couldn't brush his teeth? Yeah. I don't know. Look, the discoloration thing is aesthetic, so that's not too much what I'm talking about. Like, if he wants to get his teeth whitened or not, that's up to him. I'm referring to the grime and the plaque attached to the teeth. Like, that is that's too much for me.
It's too much. I don't think you should see him again. Like, also, you're dating him. He's not your child, so it shouldn't be up to you to educate this grown man on how to take care of his hygiene. I understand if you were 2 or 3 years into a relationship and the hygiene started to become a problem that wasn't pre-existing, and then that's when you can have that conversation as someone who you trust. But, oh my God, like, I'm so sorry that you wasted your time. And I'm also sorry that you feel like this is shallow. Like, you shouldn't feel like that. And I do think that a lot of people who put confessions into our confession box do feel a bit ashamed, and they shouldn't. Yeah. Like, I think, just give us this one thing. Like, just brush your teeth. Honestly, it's not that hard. And it shouldn't be up to us to educate men on how to be hygienic.
Also, I need to make a point here, a scientific point. Studies have shown that cavities can literally be transmitted through close contact with another person who has poor oral hygiene. So, like, literally, you can develop a cavity in your tooth via kissing. I am not getting a cavity for a man. Like, I just absolutely refuse to do that, especially on a first date. Like, if you are looking at this man and you're like, I can literally see what you had for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the last 14 days, there's not a chance. My dentist is actually very cool and young, and she was telling me what you can learn from inside people's mouths. And I was like, are you single? Because surely that's the biggest turnoff. And she was like, And I was like, this guy's mouth is tea leaves. Like, it's predicting the future, and the future for you would be cavities and root canals.
So gross. Yuck. Yeah, bye. Also, I can smell cavities, fun fact. So I can tell if someone has a cavity because I can smell it on them. If I hug them or I'm close to their face.
What does it smell like?
It smells kind of like, have you ever bit into an apple and then smelt the apple?
This is so rogue.
It smells like a mixture of bad breath and plaque.
Ugh.
So if you have a cavity, I know about it.
Would you tell me?
Oh yeah, I tell everyone. Because it's something that you should get sorted. And I'm I'm sure people appreciate to know if they have a cavity so they can get sorted. What I hate is when I tell people they have a cavity and they're like, I know. I'm like, then why? Why would you do that to me?
That is all we have time for on The Undone this week. Look, stay away from men that don't brush their teeth. That is the biggest takeaway for you today.
And make sure you have an awkward phase.
Yeah, it's probably too late for that. It's never too late to follow your dreams. So if you feel like having your awkward phase now, go ahead. We would love if you could leave us a little cheeky review. So only 5 stars, obviously. If you feel differently, don't worry about it. This message isn't for you.
Go away.
But if you do like the show, please go and leave us a review. It really makes our day. And sometimes it's just so nice to hear directly from you guys what you love about the show. You can also DM us on Instagram. Emily, where can they find us?
You can find us at Lucy M. Neville or at Emily Vernham or at The Undone Podcast. I'm trying to turn it into a meme account. It's not working. No one likes my memes. But you know what?
I like your memes.
I'm just aiming high. This is what I've always wanted to do in my life. So now I can do it.
This episode of The Undone was produced by Emmeline Peterson.
Bye.
See ya.
Mamma Mia acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this podcast on, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.